Right, hey guys, how are we doing? So, I'm about to start watching part 5 of Jojo's Bizarre Adventure, and I've been enjoying Mother's Basement's What's in an OP videos and all the other Jojo Bizarre Adventure videos I've been watching recently. And I noticed that Mother's Basement's got a cheat sheet thing for part 5, and I thought it'd be cool just to like catch up, just to like remind myself of everything that's happened through part 1 to 4, which I've really enjoyed. Part 4, right, my favourite so far was part 3, I really enjoyed it, although part 4, and I will keep saying this, the villain in part 4 was just incredible. Kiro was so cool. But yeah, I really enjoyed the whole journey aspect of part 3. So yeah, don't just go straight into part 5. You're going to miss out on so much. And I've seen a few people have been complaining about this video, saying that Mother's Basement says skip it. I wouldn't do that. Watch part 1 to 4. It's so good. It's such an adventure. But anyway, let's do this. Jojo's Bizarre Adventure part 5. Cheat sheet. Thing.
So, you've heard JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is a pretty dang good anime.
I've seen that it's a pretty good damn anime.
Or you've seen the memes it generates and you want a reliable source of internet points for the next year. Point is, there's a new Bizarre Adventure on the horizon and you want in. But there's like 113 episodes of burly men pounding on each other standing between you and full unimpeded enjoyment of JoJo Part 5.
Watch them.
That's a lot of anime to watch just to properly execute on Taste of a Liar reaction images. Lucky for you, I'm here armed with my encyclopedic knowledge of Fabulous Fist of the North Star to give you a 100% accurate summary of everything you need to know to enjoy the new season, Bento Oreo, which roughly translates to Golden Lunchbox. That was the first thing you needed to know. I hope you're taking notes. Our story begins in England, 1868. George Joestar is a really rich, really great guy and a really terrible judge of character.
Yes, he is.
One day he's in a high-speed carriage crash and mistakes Dario Brando, the thief trying to loot his corpse, for a hero trying to save his life. Because who wouldn't immediately trust that face?
I know, yeah.
12 years later, Dario dies, and to pay back his debt, George decides to adopt his son, Dio.
Such a
Dio
bad
tries
mistake.
to make a good first impression on his new family by mercilessly bullying his new brother Jonathan, aka Jojo, sexually assaulting and traumatizing his girlfriend, and killing his dog.
Dio, you're such a
7 years
bastard.
later, for some reason, everyone is really surprised when Dio turns out to be a mass murderer.
Yeah, like...
Wait, sorry, I misspoke. I meant mask murderer, because he tries to kill his brother with a magic Aztec mask that puts spikes in your brain when it gets blood on it.
Yeah,
seems a bit convoluted. You'd think he could just use the poison that he's currently using to slowly murder their dad, but hey, different strokes for different sociopaths. Before using it on his brother, Dio tests out the mask on a random drunk guy, like you do, and finds out that it actually turns people into goddamn vampires. Meanwhile, Jojo goes to investigate Dio's poison supplier and gets mugged by Robert E.O. Speedwagon. First of many reasons that this show is a copyright lawyer's worst nightmare. Despite being the kind of guy who puts blades in a hat to murder people, Speedwagon is so moved by what a good dude Jojo is that he immediately decides to quit crime and be his best friend forever, and together they discover that Dio is buying his poison from a racist caricature of a Chinese man. A common feature of 80s manga.
Please, sirs, very bad you fall in spring.
When Jojo brings the cops in to stop his brother's evil schemes, Dio pulls the old murder your dad and use his blood to turn into a vampire trick, and in an effort to stop him, Jojo lights their house on fire, impales him on the family statue, and leaves him to burn to death. Unfortunately, this doesn't quite finish the job, and after a quick bite of Chinese food, Dio is back in fighting form. While recovering from the battle, Jojo has some good old-fashioned Florence Nightingale syndrome with his old flame Erina, who's a nurse now, and meets a new ally in the fabulously behatted Will A. Zappelli, who teaches him how to use rhythmic breathing to channel the energy signature of the sun into his fists. This vampire murdering ability is called the Ripple, but you don't need to know that because after part 2, they literally never use it again.
Yeah, but no, we use him on sometimes.
To a nearby town that Dio's taken over to kill his evil brother once and for all, but first he's got to take out a zombified army of the worst, most violent people Dio could find in London, presumably football fans, and also Jack the Ripper. And weird. 2 knights named after prog rock bands, one of whom tragically murders Zappelli, starting the series' long-running tradition of murdering its sidekicks in the final act.
Yeah, it's so good that they do that though, because you just think they're not going to do it.
Other magic breath monks, Dire and Straits, to help out, because they basically do nothing and then one of them dies. But you're going to want to remember the other one, Straits, for exactly 3 3 more episodes. Anyway, Dio can now flash freeze anything he touches because, as we all remember from the Legend of Dracula, vampires have absolute control over their body temperature, and he can shoot his eyeball fluids out into high-pressure cutting beams. 2 more incredible powers that you should forget immediately because the show sure as hell does. Jojo manages to hit Dio with the ripple by lighting his hands on fire like a goddamn boss. Then he goes off to marry Erina, confident that this time the mask is destroyed and Dio is dead for real.
But is he?
He's not. On their honeymoon to America, Jojo and Erina are attacked by Dio, who decapitated himself to stop the ripple from killing him, and now wants to put his head on Jojo's body. To stop him, the injured Jonathan sinks the ship, vowing to carry Dio's head to a watery grave, while a pregnant Erina escapes, carrying a baby she rescued from the wreck with her. Jojo is dead, but his family legacy will live on, and at least this time, Dio is finally actually gone for good. I'm just fucking with you. He'll be back next season. Fast forward to 1938. Speedwagon's a billionaire now, and he's tracked down the source of the stone masks in a Mexican tomb, along with the vampire trapped in a pillar of stone. He brings Straits in to kill the vampire, but having lost the only partner who made the reference in his name make sense, Straits has become obsessed with immortality and decides to become a vampire instead. Jonathan's grandson, Joseph, is a gold-hearted punk who has his happy life of running around New York and assaulting cops with the ripple upended when the now blood-sucking Straits comes to kill him and his granny Erina off.
Run for it, Smokey!
For Straits, he's a bit of a country bumpkin who doesn't know what mirrors look like and isn't wise to the old city slicker trick of tying a grenade to way more grenades, so Joseph makes quick work of him.
Stupid,
but that
awesome.
still leaves the problem of the ancient vampire in the stone cave, who has just been found by goddamn Nazis. They revive the vampire because Nazis suck, and name him Santana because seriously, fuck anyone trying to sort out this anime's copyright situation. Also, it turns out that he's not just a vampire, but a super vampire who literally eats other vampires for breakfast and can break all of the bones in his body like an octopus. He gets out of containment, but luckily Jojo is there to save the Nazi commander Stroheim, who becomes this season's Speedwagon. Remember, this was written back in the 80s, when we all thought Nazis weren't a thing anymore. Santana tells Joseph that there are more ancient Aztec super vampires named after classic rock bands hibernating somewhere in Europe, so he has to go on a globe-trotting adventure that is super exciting, but that you don't really need to know about because none of it ever comes up again. I mean, it's really good, but
it's
the
class.
only things
Don't
that
skip
happen
it.
in the entire story that affect the plot moving forward are that Joseph crashes a few planes and loses his hand, only to have it replaced with a Nazi robot hand. Because Nazi technology is the best in the world.
That explains why he has it in part 3.
And on that note, part 3 kicks off in the far future of 1983. Dio Brando is back after being pulled from the ocean by some very unlucky fishermen, except now his head is on Jonathan Joestar's body, and he calls himself Dio, in all caps, because he's a pretentious asshole. With all of his enemies long dead, Dio lives up to his rock and roll namesake by going on a hell of a world tour, banging groupies and leaving fatherless babies across the globe. Though remember, he's got the original JoJo's Jonads, so those kids are pure Joestar. After sowing his wild deotes, he settles down in Egypt with a real cougar named Enya, who makes up for what she lacks in looks and personality with magic arrows that give people ridiculously specific psychic superpowers.
You don't need to go over yet.
Anthropomorphic manifestations of a person's life energy.
We learned that in part 4.
Like colorful luchadors, but can appear as anything from vines to guns to cars that are also dogs that are made of sand. Dio uses the arrows in conjunction with implants of his own vampiric flesh to create an army of obedient, super-powered followers, and to give himself his own muscly dude-type Pokemon with the power to... Oh wait, sorry, I can't tell you that yet. It's a mystery. But the mangaka definitely already had it figured out at this stage of the story. Definitely. As a side effect of stabbing himself, and therefore Jonathan, with the arrow, Dio ends up giving everyone in the Joestar bloodline stand powers too, because that's how genetics work.
That's how genetics work.
And thousands of miles away in Japan, Jotaro Kujo, the teenage grandson of Joseph Joestar, is real spooked by the sudden emergence of his own stand, Star Platinum, which can move really fast and punch things really hard. He locks himself up in jail, thinking his stand is an evil spirit, until his granddad shows up to set him right. Joseph is joined by Avdol, a buff Egyptian dude whose stand, Magician's Red, is a flaming turkey with the coolest attack name in the series so far. But his most impressive ability is the strength of his earlobes, which are somehow holding up like at least a pound of solid gold without stretching at all. Joseph returns with that Nazi-built robot hand and the foulest mouth you have ever seen.
He would have just randomly had a hand if he didn't know about them getting it from the Germans. I love it. Oh my god!
Son of the bitch! Yes.
Also, of course, he has his own stand.
Oh my god!
Purple vines that he can control with his mind and use to transmit the ripple. Hermit Purple also allows Joseph to send psychic images to cameras and TVs, which he uses to spy on Dio and explain to Jotaro most of what I just said. Dio senses this exposition dump, however, and starts sending his followers to kill the remaining Joestars.
Get them before they get
The first one up is this dude named Kakyoin, who can use his stand Hierophant Green to possess other people's bodies. Jotaro kicks the shit out of him and then gently plucks the vampire horror tentacle out of his head, turning him good but causing a bit of brain damage that makes him forget that he can possess people in the process. So now he just shoots crystals.
He just doesn't do it, does he?
Right after this, Jojo's mom Holly comes down with a case of the damsels as her stand begins manifesting and slowly killing her, meaning that Joseph, Jotaro, and Avdol have 50 days to kill Dio and save her life. Kakyoin decides to join them too, driven by a noble desire to fuck Jojo's mom one day, and together they set off on a wild road trip to Egypt.
Yay.
Well, they try flying first, but Joseph Joestar has never met a plane he couldn't crash, so they decided it's safer to go the long way. In Hong Kong, they're confronted by an
it's more that they don't want to endanger the public, because people are going to go
after them on planes. With a super-fast armored stand wielding a rapier called Silver Chariot. Once they kick his ass and cure him of vampire mind control, he reveals that his true goal is to track down and kill the man who gave him that haircut.
Oh yeah, the person with two right hands.
Makes sense, has two right hands.
There we go.
Wait, sorry, he raped and murdered his sister, which is also pretty bad.
Yeah, that's...
After this, I guess everyone just kind of forgets that all of these people are under mind control, so from this point on, they just straight up murder everyone they meet. Everyone includes an orangutan whose stand is a whole ship, a shapeshifter, and the dude who murdered Polnareff's sister, Jay Guile, who shows up in India alongside Best Boy Whole Horse. Whole Horse is a cowboy type with a perpetual shit-eating grin, whose stand, the Emperor, allows him to shoot magic bullets that he can control at will, but whose real superpower is an uncanny ability to run away like a little bitch at the first sign of trouble. That first
he always works in doubles
to Guile, who can hurt people by attacking their reflections, to murder the ever-loving heck out of Avdol, teaching Polnareff a valuable lesson that some things are more important than revenge. Shortly after, Whole Horse uses that second power to skedaddle when Polnareff and Kakyoin kill Jay Guile. But he surfaces a few episodes later when the gang fights Enya, who, as Jay Guile's mom, wants to murder all of them as revenge for her son. And, okay, look, they fight a lot of guys with cool and diverse powers, including Sun, Murder Zit, Baby Freddy Krueger,
that was weird.
Zombie Genie.
The genie was weird as well.
But no matter how neat those fights may be, they don't actually do anything to move the plot forward, so to make a very, very long story short, they go to an island and it turns out that Avdol's alive, and all the grief and character growth they went through was a hoax. But at least this gives Avdol a chance to earn the unique distinction of being the only JoJo sidekick to die first twice. Together they take a submarine to Egypt, and now all of the enemy stands are named after Egyptian gods instead of tarot cards. But nothing else about the Monster of the Week formula really changes. Well, okay, they do add one new member to their party. Iggy, an adorably ugly Boston Terrier who's basically an asshole to everyone all the time, often literally, and whose stand, the Fool, lets him control sand and morph it into whatever he wants. The party fights their way through Egypt, one quirky bad guy at a time, taking out such classic villains as Sword, kids who believe everything they read in comics, homoerotic magnet lady,
that was amazing,
hyperliteral metaphor for the dangers of gambling, and Comics Kid again, but this time Whole Horse is here. At long last, they find
they're all
Dio's lair
awesome.
when
Why is he
Iggy
being
sets
so
out on his own
negative
and
about
stumbles
it?
into a fight with an ice-shooting falcon named Pet Shop.
Which is really
Would
cool.
be entirely unremarkable, except
This
that
fight
his
was
tiny
incredible.
body, ability to fly, and rapid projectile spam mean that anyone who uses him in the PS1 JoJo fighting game is a grade A certified asshole.
Oh, right.
In the show, though, he goes down pretty easy. After that, the team makes their way inside Dio's hideout, which is guarded by a hyper-literal metaphor for the dangers of video game addiction.
Who is also the
as
brother
well
of the
as
person that
Vanilla
did the
Ice,
gambling.
a vampire whose stand, Cream, is possibly the only one in the series to be named for the sake of a dumb pun instead of a musical artist or album name. Though obviously Ice himself is named after Eminem, I think. Anyway, despite having a stupid name, Cream is stupid strong, able to blindly cut holes out of reality just by moving through it, and manages to kill both Avdol again and, tragically, Iggy, who had only just become a good boy after a whole season of being not bad.
Oh, it was
After
sad.
the fight, Polnareff comes face to face with Dio, who reveals the terrifying power of his stand, Zawarudo. He can make stairs longer. Well, actually, he can stop time, which makes it hilarious in retrospect that he goes to the effort of freezing time, running down the stairs, moving Polnareff down, and then running back up to resume his exact pose like 3 separate times just to fuck with him.
Yes.
Dio is nothing if not a good troll. He fucks with Team Jojo a little too much before finishing any of them off, though, and as the fight moves to the streets of Cairo, Kakyoin figures out how the world works. Unfortunately, in the process, he ends up a little too dead to really take advantage of it. But before he joins Kamina in the illustrious ranks of anime's handsomest dead virgins with rad sunglasses, he uses his stand to destroy the town clock, leaving his companions a vital clue. Once Jotaro figures out Dio's power, he realizes that his own stand, Star Platinum, can stop time in the same way, though he can only do it for a fraction
trying to learn
of the
how
time
to do it,
Dio can. Dio further widens this gap by drinking Joseph's blood, allowing him to fully merge with Jonathan Joestar's body, but this causes him to get cocky and go for a flashy finishing move without comboing into it first. His Road Roller special whiffs, and during his recovery frames, Jotaro is able to explode punch the world, destroying Dio's body along with his stand. Somehow they manage to put all of Joseph's blood back in his body,
which is weird,
and then they
but
put Dio's Gibbs out in the sun to burn, ending the vampire menace once and for all. For real this time. Except in the video games and also other dimensions, and he's got like 5 billion secret friends around the world who we all gave stand arrows, but we'll get to that. For now, we get the happiest ending in the series so far. Joseph, Jotaro, and Polnareff go back to their happy lives, Ollie Joestar returns to full health, and Avdol and Kakyoin's families are left forever broken by the loss of their sons. Moving on to part 4, we find out that as much as Joseph hates Japan, he sure loves Japanese women, specifically Tomoko Higashikata, who he knocked up on a business trip behind his wife's back.
Naughty.
Our hero, everybody. Tomoko has a son, Josuke, without Joseph's knowledge, and raises him in the small town of Morio until Jotaro shows up one day looking for him. Jotaro, who now has a daughter, a wife, and a PhD in marine biology, obviously has nothing better to do than hang out with his uncle and hunt stand users. Well, okay, the first of these stand users hunts them, a serial killer named Angelo, whose stand, Aqua Necklace, allows him to control water, a pretty scary power that he uses to kill Josuke's grandpa, but not nearly as scary as Josuke's Crazy Diamond, another punchy boy type stand that can restore damage to anything it punches,
like destroys it and then repairs it.
100% accuracy. Which means that with creative application, he can permanently fuse his grandpa's killer with a rock and leave him trapped, presumably for eternity.
So interesting.
You don't fuck with Josuke. No. You especially don't fuck with Josuke's haircut, but plenty of stand users are already lining up to do just that. Remember those incredibly powerful and valuable stand creating arrows that Dio had? Well, apparently he gave away a couple.
Well, no, because it was never introduced until this part of the story, so thanks for like ruining that bit.
Convenience, fate or whatever that dictate that stand users attract each other.
Yeah, they're always
both
destined
arrows
to meet
ended
each
up
other.
somewhere in Josuke's postal code. A mysterious figure is using one of these arrows to create stand users for unknown but surely nefarious purposes, and our heroes will track him down no matter how long it takes.
It doesn't take
takes
long.
2 episodes.
Yeah,
Turns out the guy with the stand arrow lived just down the street from Josuke.
Literally
when he
across the
and his
road.
diminutive friend Koichi go to investigate their dilapidated house, Koichi takes an arrow to the knee, neck, and Josuke has to fight the Nijimura brothers to save him. First is Okuyasu, whose stand, the hand, allows him to erase physical space to instantly close distances. He'd probably be the single strongest stand user in the entire cast, if not for one key weakness. He's dumb as a sack of fucking rocks and has no idea how to use it. His brother, Keicho, is the brains of the operation, and his stand, Bad Company, lets him control an army of deadly, toy-sized soldiers.
Yeah, it's really weird.
After an extended scuffle, Josuke makes peace with the brothers, and it turns out they weren't such bad guys after all.
They're just trying to help the dad.
They were only using the arrow to try to find a stand power that could kill their father, who was infected with one of Dio's flesh buds and mutated into an immortal gremlin thing when he died. But just when Josuke is making friendly with them, Red Hot Chili Pepper, a stand made out of electricity, pops out of the phone line, kills Keicho, and steals the arrow. So now this trio of intrepid high school boys, aided by Jotaro, must track down the arrow again while dealing with all the other stand users in Morio. Koichi
there are some annoying stand users
from being stabbed with the arrow, but it works a bit differently from the other ones we've seen so far, evolving over time. In
Act
it's
cool
1,
though. It has
can
like
just
3
create
stages,
sound
doesn't
effects,
it?
but when he's kidnapped by a crazy stalker girl named Yukiko, it evolves to Act 2 and gains the ability to apply the properties of those sound effects to objects. So if he writes sproing on something, it turns into a spring, or if he writes sizzle on it, it becomes hot. And of course, when it reaches Act 3, the only logical evolution of those abilities is that it can make things really heavy. Because when you say it in English, 3 sounds kind of like freeze. Jotaro calls in a now old and senile Joseph to use Hermit Purple to track down the guy who stole the arrow, who makes things even easier for the team by showing up to kill him, leading to a final climactic fight with the big bad in, episode 12? That can't be right. Okay, so it turns
the first half I thought was a bit weird. I was just like, what's going on? Second half's great.
Villain is just a minor bad guy after all, and following that there's a whole arc where everyone just kind of fucks around doing weird bullshit while the writer tries to figure out what the plot should be. The whole leaving him fatherless thing means that Joseph is having a bit of trouble reconnecting with Josuke, so he decides to replace him with a new baby, who is invisible, meaning that hijinks inevitably ensue. Koichi goes to hang out with his favorite mangaka, Rohan Kishibe, who, as it turns out, has a stand of his own that lets him draw really fast
weird.
and read and control people's minds, and who definitely isn't just an author insert character. Definitely. Despite Rohan creeping on him hardcore, Koichi is too enticed by the allure of Shonen Jump spoilers to run away, and ends up having his memory stolen as fodder for future.
Look at that, it's such a cool idea.
Josuke shows up in the nick of time to save him, immune to the hypnotic effects of Rohan's stand because, and I am not kidding here, when his hair is insulted, he becomes literally blinded by rage. Right after this, Koichi immediately goes back to dating his stalker because he's not all that great at picking up on red flags.
Oh, she's alright.
A few chapters later, Rohan, now a protagonist, stumbles upon Purgatory, because why wouldn't that be in a random back alley in a small Japanese town? There he meets the ghost of a dead young girl who used to be his babysitter and who tells him that she was murdered and needs him to track down her killer.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Josuke and Okuyasu make friends with this fat kid running a lottery scam named Shigechi just in time for him to get blown the fuck up because there's a fucking serial killer on the loose. Yoshikage Kira is a simple dude who wants nothing more than to live a quiet, peaceful life, free from kink-shaming for his perfectly normal attraction to women's hands. Well, okay, maybe it's a little not normal.
Weird.
He only likes the hands and prefers to get rid of the
Don't show the bit where a finger gets stuck in
his stand killer queen,
sandwich.
but he's not hurting anyone.
Okay.
Except
he is.
the women he kills. The gang almost catches him thanks to the emergence of Koichi's 3 freeze ability, which still totally makes sense, but he narrowly escapes, steals a random dude's face, and goes into hiding by assuming his identity. So now our heroes finally have a substantial, concrete goal to work toward, tracking down the killer. And it only took half of the entire part to get there. It's kind of impressive how bold this series is about making shit up as it goes along. Searching for clues, the gang stumbles into Kira's old family home where they find the vengeful ghost of his dead father. Kira Sr. ends up trapped in a Polaroid photo, but steals a stand arrow that he had hidden in the house and flees on a gust of wind, creating new opponents with the arrow to stand between the Joe Bros and discovering his son's identity. These foes include a kid who plays rock, paper, scissors, disembodied feet, a guy who's really good at origami, and a man whose stand power is being homeless. Also, Josuke briefly meets a shape-shifting alien and uses him to cheat at dice. Yeah, these guys are real casual about there being a murderer in town. Still, it's only a matter of time until they track down Kira, who is now impersonating an unassuming businessman named Kosaku Kawajiri, and doing a pretty good job of banging his wife.
Yes, he is.
Unfortunately for him, his son, Hayato, who is a total badass, pulls his best boy detective impersonation.
He does such a good job.
And even though he gains a new stand power that lets him make people explode in an eternal time loop, plus a pet cat who is also a plant that lets him make bombs out of thin air, it makes exactly as much sense in context. The gang manages to finally defeat Kira by uncovering his one true weakness, having his head crushed by an ambulance. Thus ends part 4 of Jojo, and surprisingly, no major sidekicks died this time. Don't expect that to become a trend. There you have it. Everything that you need to know to properly enjoy JoJo Part 5. All certified 100% true by the Anime Pope. Let me know in the comments below what you think
nice
of this new video format, which I'm tentatively calling Anime Cheat Sheet, and also how you're enjoying JoJo Part 5. I really like it, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. While you're down there, don't forget to hit the like button if you like the video, and subscribe if you want to see more videos every week. I'm Jeff Thu, professional shitbag, signing out from my mother's basement.
That was cool. He downplays part 3 a lot, which annoys me. Although a few of you have said in the comments section of some past reactions I've done that most people tend to prefer part 4 over part 3. I'm not arguing. Like, there hasn't been a part yet that I've not liked, and I like the randomness and stuff. Like, I like the first half of part 4 I thought was quite slow, and then the second half, boom. Part 3 is my favourite. I love it. I love the whole journey aspect. Like, part 4 is just one place and they're not going anywhere, and then random stuff's happening. Again, not downplaying it, it's cool. But part 3, I like the whole, we gotta get from here to there, and then you see everything in between. Yeah, cool. I can't wait to start watching part 5. I think there's like 19 episodes out at the moment. So cool. So anyway, yeah, and don't just watch this cheat sheet, watch it all. It's so good, it's so worth seeing. I just wanted to see what he thought all the key points would be. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys. Thanks all you guys. Next time.